Get my ducks in a row here.
Perfect. It looks like the streaming's hitting now.
Sweet. So how's your week been going? We're getting close to the end of the month, so it's usually crunch time right about now. But
yeah, it's been busy. Had some pretty interesting projects popping up. Recently working with a restaurant franchisor who is actually building out their own software. It's kind of a combo of a couple different features. So they're building in their POS system, their ordering system, and then they're going to have a whole sensor arm as well, doing like their cold chain monitoring, as well as things like leak detection, some CO2 monitoring on their beer tap lines. So pretty cool stuff there. And then some stuff with some consulting firms. I've been running into a lot of big data recently where people are looking to aggregate their data to feed these data lakes. So pretty interesting in that regard. What about you?
Yeah, the data lake things. Yeah, it's interesting. It's complicated, right? So like even data lakes just in general, getting data into like a business intelligence platform, like aside from IoT, like take sensors away from it, but just getting data into a business intelligence platform to run like customized reporting and things like that can be challenging as it is. And that's why there's all these kind of middle layers, like there's data bricks and things like that, that kind of massage the data, and there's data cubes and, all the, every industry's got its own jargon, but yeah, just normal data that you've got from your business getting in there can be hard. And what we've done is created a plugin that goes right into Power BI or right into Tableau or these tools that normalizes sensor data across 1,100 different types of sensors, and that number is growing all the time. So taking something that's already complicated, IoT can also be complicated, but we've kind of really simplified that marriage. So yeah, I've been getting that a lot too. And there's so much value there, but I think it's untapped because people are concerned that it's not possible or that it's too much work or that it's not quite there yet. But we've done some pretty cool things by connecting up these data lakes and these business intelligence tools around just like ESG reporting, which I think we talked about in the last webinar. But it, things like that require input from multiple sources, and that sensor data can really enhance, or seeing a lot of optimization of cleaning schedules for janitorial companies, or conference room optimization, utilizing spaces, more efficiently, but, getting data into a report that includes manual data mixed with sensor data to like really get the full picture. It's something that I'm hearing a lot of and seeing a lot of on these calls. So
yeah, absolutely.
So
and hey guys, it looks like we're having a bunch more folks hopping on. We didn't start yet, I promise. We were just kind of chit-chatting here. But if you guys, as you're hopping on, let us know where you're joining us from. Secondarily, if you guys are working on any particular sensor projects, feel free to throw some information in the chat. We'll kind of use that as a guide if we can tie in any relevant information here. And then I think we should probably go ahead and kick this thing off. Looks like we've got a lot of folks on. Matt, that's a familiar name in Athens, Georgia. Hey, Matt, how's it going, man? But perfect. I think, we're at 1:03 Eastern time anyway, so I think we'll go ahead and get started here. I know we've got you guys only for a half an hour, so I appreciate you hopping on today. I think we'll kick things off with some introductions. So I'll go first. Matthew Barry, Business Development Manager here at myDevices. Been with the company for about a year at this point. And, really in my role, it's working with companies to understand the remote monitoring needs of their clients, and then speaking to how our sensor solutions can assist them in providing technology that solves for those requirements. And then secondarily, bringing them to market in a much quicker way at a reduced risk and cost. So, that's really my goal here, is to provide you guys with some information about myDevices, who we are, what we do, and then there will be time for us to set up secondary calls if we want to dive into the specifics of your projects and how we can best partner together. And then we've also got Cameron Roxy on the call. Cameron's our VP of Sales, part of the founding team here at myDevices. So Cam, I'll kick it over to you for a quick introduction.
Sure. So I'm just going to share my screen and just show, for those of you that don't know who we are, what we do, but we've aggregated over 1,100 sensors from a little over 300 manufacturers at this point. sensors that do things like Modbus to LoRa, panic buttons. This is an interesting one that I always like to show, and we do have a webinar specifically on this sensor soon, but this is just a clip-on hot drop that can do energy monitoring for building management, tenant management, machine runtime, and it's got these larger CT clamps, so you can basically electrically submeter a building or electrically submeter a refrigerator, or anything in between. And there's all kinds of use cases around that particular device. Things like occupancy sensors, people counting room occupancy, things like that. So just tons of different sensors for different use cases. These all come pre-equipped. You just can turn them on and they instantly show data inside of our application, which you see here. So you can see, this is an HVAC dashboard that would allow you, we can provide the bundle of sensors. You turn it on and you can instantly monitor your HVAC, or you can instantly do energy monitoring, or you can do, let's say, tank level monitoring, right? So we've built these kind of templated dashboards, as well as built the ability to do custom dashboards. So you can drag and drop different widgets into a view to really make your own flavor, build your own dashboard to do exactly what you want to do. So, 1,100 sensors, mix and match, instantly turn them on and they work. And that's a big deal. And like, we'll talk a lot about that probably on today's webinar, is as opposed to getting a sensor and having to go through, this device's user guide and set up instructions and configuration and decoding, and just to make this thing do something, you can literally just, turn it on and it works inside of our app, and we've got the dashboards and everything. And then we've also got integrations, so open APIs that then allow you to take that data and feed it into any other app or platform. So that's kind of shown on this graphic here. We can ingest the data, we normalize it, we add value to it through device templates and configuration, all of that. So that utility hot drop that's just checking energy, well, we can then add some spice onto that to make it a runtime monitor, predictive maintenance device, essentially, by pulling in other data. But we then use APIs to get that data out, so any other app or platform can integrate with our APIs and make use of 1,100 sensors through one API instead of integrating every sensor individually, while also taking advantage of some of the features within the app to add some value into the sensors themselves and the data that's coming in. So yeah, it's not really an introduction on me, more of an introduction on the company and what we do, but I thought you guys like to kind of see visually who we are and what we do. So we'll turn it back to Matt to kind of just give an overview, a more kind of detailed overview of the company and everything, but then maybe go into some demos. But for everybody that's out there, we really like to kind of keep this open-ended. I know there's about 20 of you here in the Zoom, and I know we've got someone live on LinkedIn. So please just throw your questions in as we go. As Matt's running, I'm going to man the chat, and we would love to divert from just a standard presentation and let you guys drive it, so to speak, based on whatever questions you might have. So feel free to throw the questions in. I'll have my eyes on the chat so we can get answers. And Matt, kind of take it away with next steps and talk about the company and projects we're working on and what you're seeing out there. And yeah, I'd love to kind of hear what's new and what's going on in the world. So
yeah, perfect. Thanks, Cam. I'm going to go ahead and steal your screen share there. So let me pop this on. I think it'll be helpful, to give you guys first and foremost an overview of myDevices as a company, on a high level. So, we've been in the commercial IoT space for, at this point, the better part of a decade, headquartered out of Burbank, California, but employees across the United States, like myself here in Orlando, Florida. Secondarily, completely global organization. So we do have an office in Paris, France, and ongoing deployments throughout North America, South America, Europe, Asia Pacific, you name it, we're there. Working with companies from, the small 1 to 2 man mom and pop shop, all the way up to some of the largest organizations in the world. So you see the name T-Mobile there, Aramark, really providing foundational technologies that allow companies to streamline the process by which they bring IoT services to market. And I think that we really do that by, solving for a big issue in the IoT space, in my mind, which is fragmentation that exists out there. So I think that these kind of cogs here exemplify that, starting at store and logistics. How do we obtain hardware? Are we managing multiple vendors on our side? Secondarily, how do we visualize that data then? Are we building out our own software? Are we utilizing sensor specific platforms that the hardware manufacturers provide. How do we then integrate that with existing softwares that we may be utilizing today? And then how do we manage, our clients and their sensor deployments to scale, as well as do things like pro services? How do we actually get these sensors out into the field deployed? How do we train our sales team to provide this technology and show the benefits to our client base? So, really myDevices sits in the middle of that because we aggregate all these pieces together to offer complete end-to-end IoT solutions. And I think really, the simplest way to explain that is to walk you through it. And, Cam kind of touched on portions of this already, but, really starting at the store and logistics side of things. Cam was showing off our store page before, which I'm going to hop back to. So what you're looking at here is a culmination of about 400 different IoT manufacturing partners that we work with today, offering about 1,100 devices as a service. And we warehouse and hold our own inventory of these sensors in California, which allows us to act as a single point of hardware acquisition, meaning that you guys aren't juggling different vendors, going to Dragino for temperature and humidity sensors, Netbox for window and door sensors. You can place a singular order with us. And then secondarily, as Cam mentioned, we handle the logistical side of things as well. So pick, pack, shipping, and pre-provisioning of those devices so that they arrive to you plug and play ready to speak back to that sensor application that Cam was showing.
So I'm going to sorry, Matt, to ruin your flow here. Just going to jump in just for a sec. Because that piece is really important. Pick, pack, provision, and ship. That provision piece is important, and it's unique, and it's a big problem. Like if you were buying just components through a distributor traditionally outside of IoT, and you just needed different pieces of equipment for whatever project you were working on, it's fine. Pick, pack, ship. You just need somebody to get it, stick it in a box, and ship it where it needs to go. But sensors have this need to be configured based on the use case. If I have a door sensor and it does open close, that sounds simple, but there's some slight tweaks between open close and how many times has it been opened or how long has it been opened. Same sensor, 3 different sensor templates or provisioning or configurations, right? So where the roadblock tends to be in IoT, where what we've solved for is without myDevices, if your customer or you internally have a project or a problem that you're trying to solve, you end up acquiring the hardware, but then having to put hands on every piece of hardware in order to program or provision it to do what you need it to do. And it's the time that it takes to do that for a POC. You might get through like 10, 15, 20 sensors. But then when you're trying to do 1,000 sensors, 10,000 sensors, or even harder than that, 1,000 locations, even if it's 2 sensors per location, but it's 1,000 locations, we've got the processes and the tools internally to quickly get all of that done and ship it out so that when it arrives, it's ready to go. There's nothing more to do except then, present the data showed on dashboards. And that's, Matt, where you're getting to now. But that provision piece that's bolded in the presentation is very, very important and a core of what we provide. Marrying the hardware with the software is something that nobody is quite doing the way that we are in this industry and providing that in a singular solution. You can go get an app and you can go get the hardware, but to glue those things together and provide all the services in the back end to actually procure it and deliver it and make it work is unique. So anyways, yeah, sorry to throw you off your flow there, but yeah, that's really important as we get into the next stage of it, which is the app, which I call this is the first stop for the data. Not always the last stop, but a very important stop. So yeah, I'll let you go, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. So, once we have those devices pre-provisioned, as Cam was mentioning, how do we ultimately visualize that data that's being collected? So, hopping over into the front end of the application here, that's exactly where this happens. And because of that provisioning process, it really makes the implementation of these sensors super simple. So what you're looking at here is just a demo, but we could have different locations that an end user could set up, and it's as simple as then just hopping in, adding a device to that location. If we're on the mobile application, you can scan in this QR code, or secondarily on the web app here, we punch in your device ID, name the device. In just a matter of seconds, we're able to visualize that information here on the application. And this app gets completely white labeled. So your logo, colors, branding, at the end of the day, it's going to market as your product. We're kind of just behind the scenes standing that all up then. And it's a really robust tool. So, not only are we getting this quick data visualization where we can hop in and get, history of the sensors and what data they're collecting, but we can also put those into dashboards, right? So we've built out templated dashboards that you see here based on some of the more popular use cases that we're seeing deployed. So things like energy metering for ESG, like Cam was mentioning, or things like predictive maintenance on heavy machinery or pumps. But secondarily, you can hop in here and create your own dashboards. So say we want to combine the data that's being viewed by multiple sensors or across different locations, we can hop in and either within a particular sensor, drag and drop widgets to collect information off there, where we've got a whole host of stuff for real-time data, controls, visualization. I'm kind of randomly pulling stuff in here, but I think you guys probably get the gist of it, where you can really create your own custom views, which is, extremely powerful. And we can even lock these and share them with folks outside the organization just by providing them a link. So lots of great stuff there in terms of how we visualize the data. There's also some proactivity that we can provide as well. So once we've got this data, maybe we want to create alerts based on that information. So we can pop in, and just as a simple example, say we're monitoring freezer temperatures, we can say, hey, I want to set some thresholds here. Alert me if we're above 45 degrees or below 30 degrees. And we can add rules on top of that. So things like, hey, only alert me if we're outside these parameters between particular hours, or if the condition remains for X period of time. Then we send out alerts to an unlimited list of recipients via text message and or email. We can put things like corrective actions on top of that, or custom messaging saying, hey, I shut the freezer door. So, lots of great capabilities there as well.
So there's a question in the chat, Matt, that I think is opportune. It's a good opportunity to kind of address it because I think it fits in.
Yeah.
So yeah, these tools are great. And the great part about it is for everybody is it's one thing, and I keep going back to kind of the same concept. It's one thing to be able to get a sensor and then get it onto an IoT platform and then do alerts and reports and user management and those things. It's all very important. But getting the sensor into that app typically requires a good chunk of work. There's a connection piece there that needs to happen. What we're saying is you could buy a sensor, turn it on, scan a QR code, and all of that's available instantly. And not just one sensor, but hundreds, right? And we've got bulk provisioning, so you can even load up 1,000 sensors all at once and instantly visualize the data. You're not routing data from the sensor to the network server, to the payload decoder, and then to the app, right? It's just just plug and play. But I think that, and the question here is, can anyone use their own platform? So in other words, for a specific use case that somebody might be trying to solve for, there might be an app that already exists. It might be an IoT platform that the customer is stuck on, that's what they want to use for whatever reason. Maybe there's some vertical specificity to it based on that use case. Or maybe it's a work ticketing platform or a business intelligence platform or an ERP system, some software. And maybe they don't want to use this front end because they're already using a front end. They don't want to use something else. So can anybody use their own platform, or are they stuck with this dashboard and these views in this application by partnering with us?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And we do have a host of partners who bring this white label application to market as their end product, which is fantastic. But we've got a whole secondary set of partners who do want to flow this data into a work ticketing system or a building management system, like Cam said, which we can pretty simply do utilizing our integrations capabilities. And there's tons of different ways that we can do that, right? To pull or push this data to another platform. And it could, be as simple as utilizing our one-click cloud-to-cloud integrations with, all the major cloud services out there like AWS, Google, Azure. Secondarily, we've got, webhook capabilities, REST API. So lots of different flexibility there. So ultimately, if you want to take this somewhere upstacked for analytics or visualization, you're certainly capable of doing that.
Yeah, it's really important to kind of understand that this is why in the beginning I was like, this is the first stop for the data, not always the last stop, but it's the first stop. And why it's the first stop is because it's all done already. So in terms of your proof of concept, hey, we think the Dragino blah 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 sensor will be good for this use case, or we think the Axioma or the whatever the manufacturers, we think this sensor is going to do what we think it's going to do. You get your hands on it, you turn it on, and you realize, kind of, but it's missing this or that. Rather than taking 6 months to get to the point where you realize it's not the right sensor or it's not configured properly, you can get it, turn it on, visualize it in this application instantly, validate the use case, and then say, okay, yes, the hardware is good, the data is right, the configuration's right, and now let's get the data to the end user application, whether it's an IoT platform or an analytics engine, or here we've listed things like Salesforce, Slack, Delta sharing, Discord, like all these are one-click integrations that we've predefined, but we've got MQTT, webhook, and REST APIs as well. So there's just so many different ways to get the data out, but it's very important to understand that, well, why wouldn't I just integrate with the sensor directly? Like, why do I talk to myDevices first and then go to that app? Why wouldn't I just have an MQTT broker out of my LoRa network server, for example? Well, the reason is because we are not only normalizing the data, meaning that it can be a Dragino, a Tectelic, a layered, whatever it is. We're going to take that data in and then we're going to normalize it into a standard format. So if it's going out over MQTT into your platform, once you understand how to parse out the data from one sensor, it's the same language for all 1,100 sensors. So you're doing the work one time to fit thousands of sensors. That's one of the reasons. And the other reason is, in addition to just normalizing the data, we're adding configuration and templates on top of that. So I mentioned like the door swing, open, close versus count versus duration. Those are user inputs that you can add over top of the data, or you can say if it's an energy runtime, we know that if it's kilowatt hours or below this or above this, that it's on or off. So now we can turn kilowatt hours into machine runtime. And that's the data that gets integrated. You don't have to do calculation on the other end of it. So that's how these, integrating with our API can become so valuable, because you've got a lot of control over the data and it's standardized. So it becomes very, very powerful in enhancing other systems to become more compatible with sensors. We kind of become middleware in that instance. So yeah, very, very important question and concept to understand around the value that we provide.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that happens in the back end console as well, right. Which is, we're talking about the front end. How do we visualize the data? Are we integrating it outbound? But I think a lot of the device templating and normalization that Cam's talking about really takes place in the back end. So I'm going to hop in there real quick so we can cover it. And then we'll open things up for some questions there. But yeah, really this back end console, again, is where we've built out device templates for every single one of the sensors that we offer, and we can configure those. You see 3 different Aviway trackers here where we can pull exactly the data that's relevant to you. Is it just a GPS tracker, or are we going to utilize that device as a panic alert button? How often is the device going to be reporting back? So we can make all those configurations. And then again, if we are integrating outbound, that's where we apply a codec that normalizes those files so that they can then be integrated outbound. But, secondarily, this console is a powerful tool because it allows you to see all of your different customers, do things like drop in on their locations, see what sensors they have deployed, remote access their instance to the front end of the application. So really a high-level tool that allows you to manage your client base and their sensor deployments to scale as well.
Yeah, and there's some really, really cool stuff coming down the pipe that's going to really enhance this backend console that we have that would allow you to bring your own network server and bring your own devices on and a lot of self-service back here. But as it stands today, it's already very, very powerful because it gives you everything that you need to scale your solutions, like bulk provisioning. You can upload a CSV and now all of a sudden you've added users and locations and alert thresholds all to an account. So when we look at our clients that are doing deployments across 1,000 locations, we don't expect there to be like a scan of the QR code across all 1,000 devices. We create a template that we can then import, and that builds the account, and then we ship the hardware. And when it arrives, you could be a restaurant manager that knows nothing about how any of this works, but you pick up the sensor and you read the label that says walk-in cooler 1, stick it in there, and everything else is already working by the time it gets there. So, and it's this tool that allows us to kind of reach in and do kind of customization and configuration that way at scale for our partners. So really great tool that you get access to that really allows you to professionalize, commercialize, and scale your business in a really big way. So I think it's probably good as we're kind of getting towards the end. We've got a lot of people on today, so throw your questions in the chat, guys. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. Even if it's not a question, just a comment or feedback would be great to just hear from you guys. You know, and it would be great to hear projects that you're working on, maybe you've already worked on and completed. And we do have one question here around popular use cases. So, and we were actually talking about this a little bit at the top of the show here, Matt. You know, use cases, you know, you had mentioned big data. There was the use case with the smart restaurant, essentially is what I would equate that to. I'm seeing a lot of energy monitoring around, you know, this utility hot drop device that we're going to do a webinar on later this week that I would encourage everybody to go sign up and join. It's going to be great. We'll have the manufacturer on. We'll have a customer on that's actually benefited from the partnership between us and Utility, bringing the full solution together, giving it to a partner that then deployed to their customers. We'll have them on telling their story. But I did want to show, in terms of use cases, these guys have created a very unique device that allows you to do energy monitoring. And when you look at all the possible different use cases, ESG reporting, you know, businesses are now checking how much energy they're using, how much water they're using on a quarterly basis, where they used to do it annually. So you've got 4x the labor hours being attributed to this, with more spotlight on it, quite frankly. Like even if when they were doing it annually, I don't think anybody thought that, like, was anybody looking at these closely? So it was kind of this, like, you know, monotonous task that you needed to get done. But now it's very critical. You have to do it. You have to do it in a certain way. It's very important. And it's very often now, 4 times a year that they're doing it. So this automates all of that energy tracking, and you can do it on small scale appliances or large scale appliances. But there's more to it than just energy monitoring. We're seeing this device used for solutions where maybe you want to know the temperature of your HVAC or your airflow. So you've got sensors for that, but then you want to pair that up with actual energy monitoring that's being used. So that's where you can see, okay, yeah, this filter is full or something's off with the equipment and it's causing excess energy usage. So there's some ROI around maintaining this piece of equipment. Or maybe your refrigerator is running too high of a temp or too low of a temp and you're wasting energy and power. So that's an example of a use case that I've seen a lot of. Matt, what have you seen out there? Asset tracking is another one, both indoor and outdoor. I've heard a lot of people want to know where their stuff is. I think people lose stuff more often than they want to admit. So
Yeah,
it's been a big one.
Yeah, I've seen asset tracking come in multiple different forms, whether it is, you know, tracking finished products throughout a warehouse, you know, in a steel mill in particular, on one potential, partner project where, you know, they're finishing these rolled steels and then they're placing them in different parts of the warehouse, but then it's time to ship them out and they're like, oh shoot, where are they? So, you know, tracking stuff within a warehouse, or even secondarily working on projects with trains where they're shipping out rail cars full of product. And a lot of times they're running into a situation where the client is not returning that rail car. They're kind of using it for their own warehousing, if you will. And there's obviously a cost associated with that. So, you know, that was a pretty simple ROI, but yeah, asset tracking's, you know, been really, really popular and something I'm getting a lot of requests for recently.
Yeah, the rail card thing I've heard a lot. Like where is like you've got this big yard, you want to know where it is, specifically which slot it is, like, you know, because they have these little like parking slots that they're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
They can, you know where everything is at any given time. So, well, okay, we're about 1 minute out. So, but we did get another question here. Want to measure temp, humidity, and get alerts for thresholds in multiple dwelling units in northern Canada with data sent over power line because of poor Wi-Fi connectivity. Yeah. Okay, I know we're at the top of. I'm gonna click answer live because I'm answering live. So I've never done that before, by the way. I don't even know what it does. So the okay, so the great part about what we've got, right? We've got all kinds of different options. We have cellular sensors, we have LoRa sensors, our gateways are, we have LoRaWAN gateways with the LoRa network server already included. So you plug it in and the network's up and ready to go. Those can backhaul on cellular, or they can backhaul on Ethernet or Wi-Fi. So in a temp and humidity use case, especially, multi-dwelling units, most likely suggest a LoRa gateway, because you can stick a LoRa gateway inside of a tall building every few floors and get full-on coverage no matter where you put those temperature sensors. If you have poor Wi-Fi connectivity, that gateway can go hardline into Ethernet, or it can go cellular, or both. And if one doesn't work, it can fail over to the other. So you can very simply just put some gateways up, boom, you've got your connectivity. Now you've got multiple backhaul options, and now just place the temperature sensors where they need to go, and you've got a working solution. We've got the dashboards for it. If it needs to integrate into a work ticketing system, so maintenance knows to go check on things, if that temperature breaks the threshold, all of that is part of what we provide. So yeah, great comment there, question. And if anybody else has anything, feel free to throw them in. We can hang for a couple minutes after to get some questions answered. But yeah, hopefully that helps. But yeah, Matt, I'll let you go away.
No, and for those of you that are up against time, like Kim said, we'll hang out for a few more minutes. But I know you guys have your own particular projects and specifications in terms of what you're looking to do with this technology. So I'm going to throw this out in the chat as well. Like that, you guys can schedule time with me directly, and we can answer questions more in line with your particular project. So would love to sync up, take a deeper dive into everything. So that's going to be mydevices.com/Matt. If you guys want to schedule, some additional time where we can, talk a bit more. So I'll throw that in the chat here. And Matt, if anybody has
2 T's, that's very important. 2 T's.
Yeah.
Don't mess it up.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, guys, feel free to add in any additional questions. We'll hang out for a few more minutes. But like I said, if you need to jump, then we can schedule some time to follow up.
Yeah. It looks like Lee chimed in again, asking for the gateway. So yeah, Lee, what I'd suggest, go ahead and on the link on the screen here, set up a call with Matt. We can talk through the project and make suggestion and come back with a proposal on what we can provide. Because there would be multiple gateway options potentially. We just need probably a little more info on what exactly you're looking to accomplish, and we can make the right recommendation. So yeah, I would recommend schedule a call with Matt. We'll talk it out, and we'll get you something sooner rather than later. Yeah, any other questions, guys? Throw them in the chat. I see some folks are dropping off as we get towards the end here. Again, mydevices.com/Matt to schedule a call if you guys want to spin off, a one-on-one session. Would love to hear about your projects, figure out what's going on. I will say, very rare we hear a project and we can't find a solution for it. We've got so many sensors and so much flexibility within our software tools that we can usually get it done, and we can get it done in short order, short turnaround time. So challenge us, hit us with your projects, as simple or as challenging as they are. We can work it out, and we're looking forward to talking to each of you, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. The fun part, we're talking about powerful tools, sensors, the software, all the integration, but it's really what you guys decide to do with it. So would love to hear more. I think we've cleared out the queue on questions. So, look forward to hearing more about what you guys are working on and how we can best assist. So with that, I think we'll probably wrap things up, and just wanted to thank everybody again for their time today. Look forward to chatting with you guys again soon.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Take care, everybody.